So folks, today is the day I'm finally lifting Thor, my 2010 XC90 V8. This is part 3 of my lifted XC90 series. So before we do anything, like I said, these have 8.9 inches of ground clearance, and you can see the gap between the front, well, the rear tires and the front tires. So it's like about a fist, I'd say, on the front. And the rear is about the same too. So I'm doing, it's supposed to be 3 inches taller. So that's with the subframe spacer and the strut spacers. So I'm interested to see how much taller this is gonna be. So I'm finally doing it. I'm using the Cross Country Performance 3-inch lift kit. I know I've made like 2 videos on it. If you haven't seen the first 2 videos, Episode 1 was me talking about the lift kit that I got and all the stock measurements that I've taken. Episode 2 was me taking this thing off-road, which actually came out a few days before this video that you're seeing now. So definitely make sure to check out the last video because I really put this thing through the test. I'm with my boys, Steve and Alex. If you remember Steve, you remember this video. This is his next truck he got after his Dakota. It's a, what year is it?
It is a 97
Ford Ranger.
You can't really tell, but it is a Ford Ranger.
Yes. And he's currently V8 swapping it. That seems like it's going to be fun. I mean, it already was a death trap. It feels like it.
Not nearly as... I mean, so it didn't have doors on it.
Yeah.
At one point.
Yeah.
It never had a bed on it.
Huh?
Door.
The door? What about the door?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, the door.
Standard door.
I noticed that when I first came and looked at it.
Yes.
So this is just so the door doesn't open while you're driving?
Yeah, so what we did is we took the doors off and I said, fuck this thing, and I got a sledgehammer.
Yeah?
And I beat the shit out of it.
Jesus Christ.
So the latch wouldn't go back in.
Uh-huh.
So obviously, there's no latch. You gotta close the door.
Oh my god. Oh, that
so
makes
like, you know
sense.
Perfect. Put that right there, and you can grab on it and shake it.
It's secure.
I drove it from here to Baltimore and back.
With the door like that?
The door like that.
Oh my god. Fine. And you can see how mint the interior is. Look at how mint that is. Like a brand new, like it rolled off the... Fireworks have gone off in here?
Yes.
So the installation of the front was pretty straightforward. Cross Country Performance supplies written instructions for both the suspension spacers and the subframe spacers. All you have to do is jack up your car with jack stands, of course, remove the wheels, and get cracking. We removed the bottom 2 bolts of the front struts and then unbolted the top 3, which drops the struts. Make sure you have someone to hold them from falling and breaking something. You also have to unbolt the sway bar end links from each strut.
See, with me, all this, it seems, like, you know, intimidating, but I know it's not really that bad. By myself.
It's more of just jumping into it.
Yeah. Just sending it.
Spacing is kind of iffy to me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day,
it'll all be done.
Mm-hmm.
Once the strut is out, you have to hammer out the factory studs and install the longer supported studs. We had to use a torch to heat up the old ones to pop them out. Now you can put the strut spacer on top and then reinstall everything in reverse. The subframe spacers are even more simple. Just make sure you have a jack underneath and remove all the existing bolts so the subframe can drop low enough to slide the spacers in between the subframe spacer and the body. Then you can use the supplied longer bolts and washers to fasten everything down.
So what the instructions in the Cross Country Performance kit say is to first remove the top nut. There's a top nut that holds the shock. The shock and the spring on this rear suspension are separate, but I have not been able to remove that nut. I think I'll insert that clip so you can see what I'm talking about. So the issue that I'm having is that, so you can see this is not stripped, but the top nut is supposed to come off and this is supposed to stay.
So, you know, you're supposed to use, you know, a hex or a Torx or whatever this is. And then this is an 18 millimeter. So, you know, you're supposed to use the hex and hold this while you're turning this. But they both keep spinning.
So the whole thing is spinning?
Yeah.
Which is what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
So what we're going to do
Something to hold.
is we're going to put this right here.
Yep.
And we're going to spin it the opposite direction.
Okay. Move this bag.
So this actually doesn't need the extension anymore.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to get this, and we're going to spin it until it stops spinning, because it's going to hit something.
Yes.
At some point, it will hit something.
So what I'd like to do, I haven't tried yet, but this is what my game plan. I'm gonna try to drop everything from the bottom, because what it looks like, if I drop the lower control arm enough, the spring, because the spring is sitting on, let's see if I can get it to focus. The spring is sitting on the lower control arm. So if I can drop the lower control arm, I can drop the spring, and then the lift spacer fits, let's see here. It fits, you know, right on top of the spring. And then I can just put everything together. But what I'm also thinking of doing, because after off-roading with this, I've been underwhelmed with the lift of how much lift it gave me, but I think it's because I need to get new springs. So I do not think that I'm going to tackle this immediately. I'd like to put stiffer springs in the back, well, taller springs, and then, oh, there's the neighborhood cat over there. And then taller springs in the front, but those are struts, so I'm not going to bother with trying to do that myself, because I don't have a spring compressor and I do not trust myself to use one, so I'll take it to one of my boys. But I'm gonna try to get new springs. And for the front springs, I know Bad Swede that make the front springs for the XC70, which work on this. So I'm gonna see if I can just get 2 front springs and then figure out getting the rear springs so I can get more lift, because it's really underneath. I mean, the car is jacked up right now, but underneath it's not that much taller, which is underwhelming, because I still bottomed out. Like I ripped the exhaust off after off-roading the other day. So the new spacers finally came in after like 3 weeks. So this is a 67.1 millimeter bore. So it fits over just like so, and then you put, you know, of course you put these in where the lug holes are. You match that up there, then you're good to go. Then you bolt everything in, and then I have, this is 30 millimeters, so it's 1 1/4 inches, so it should make me get enough space for the front spring perches. And this is what the spacer looks like when it's installed. And then, you know, of course the lug bolts just go in there just like normal, because it's hub centric, and this will be very crucial for keeping this thing safe and reducing any vibration. I guess while we're back here, this is the rear strut. Obviously this is the brake, so you need to remove this lower control arm, and then the bottom of the strut is held on with this. The top is held with those pesky nuts and splines in the middle. Once I get that out, I will have no problems to remove this. Then the subframe spacers, this is the rear right here on this jack point. So this is where the big one goes, and then there's the 2 little ones there. Same on the other side. And then for the rear, it is somewhere, oh, it's right here, right there. So with that one big one. Okay, so this is with all 4 wheel spacers, and the front lifted but not the rear, because I'm still having that shock issue. I'm putting the tires on tomorrow, but wow, look at that. It looks so cool. It looks really big, and I drove it around the neighborhood. It drives so different with the spacers on. It's really, it feels really solid on the road. Okay, so since these tires are bigger, first check out how little gap I have
from the spring perch. You can't see, but I'll take a picture. But I've had to do some trimming to the bumper because it's been rubbing. I think it's rubbing here, but I'm just gonna use a heat gun or something to push it back. But it was mostly rubbing on, there was a lip on the bottom of the bumper. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and then over here, because it's touching right now, I'm gonna have to find a way to bang this back. And this is the final product. I mean, the rear, like I said, I haven't been able to do that. I tried it the other day with my friend. We were able to get everything, you know, like the lower control arm and everything off, but nothing, the spring doesn't want to come out because the shock still has to be completely removed. I actually have to take everything apart again because there's a little rubber boot that goes on top of the spring that I forgot to put back on, so now it makes a little bit of a clunk. Doesn't bother me that much. Once I get that taken care of, I'll be okay. The front, this is, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna make another video on the impressions of the lift, but I'm honestly not, I'm kind of underwhelmed. I mean, the tires are bigger, so it, you know, kind of doesn't look as tall because, you know, the bigger tires fill the fender wells a little bit more, but I'm still kind of underwhelmed. But that's why I want to do the Bad Swede front springs. I don't know what I can do for the rear springs, because if I do the front springs, those are 2 more inches of lift. So technically it'll be 5 inches, but really it'll just be 4. Because I really like more clearance. Because underneath, it looks like it's stock underneath. But that also may be because of the subframe spacers, because one of my viewers, one of you guys actually messaged me, and he just put the 2-inch lift without the subframe spacers. So that's something that I may do, just remove them and see if it lifts it up a little bit more. It does look pretty cool, I have to say, especially looking at it in front. The DRLs don't flash like that. That's just how LEDs are. But it really does look a lot beefier. It doesn't rub anymore. I've had to do some trimming here, and you can see where it used to rub. Well, over there. But these are 31.5-inch tires, I believe. They're 265/60 R18s. Like I said, I can't go any bigger. That's okay. I've had a nice time. I still haven't completely learned how these tires are, so I have yet to, you know, fully experience them. The reason why I'd love to do the rear lift ASAP is because my, there's like, you know, screws here, and it chews up the side of my tire. But that's that. And then it also, the rear is a lot softer, so it kind of floats a little bit more than I'd like. Thank you guys for watching this whole install video. It didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to, but I am satisfied with the final results. I don't know if you could tell, but the excitement has kind of worn away. I just want to go wheeling with it more and, you know, enjoy the car instead of being like, oh. So stay tuned for the next few parts of this series. I am thinking the next one will be first impressions after the lift, and the second one will be the actual off-road video after the lift and tires. So stay tuned for those things, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, peeps.